your question was a great segue into our next presenter. Rosie Tovie has a workshop called Getting the Word Out, and that's what we need to do. It's been very difficult, and we are very lucky to have her. She has some cards for her website. Make sure you take one with her. Rosie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. The website's in the booklet, so if you have a booklet, it's shutdownindianpointnow.org, and it's a resource site for everyone to use. It has everything sourced there, all the information, everything that Gary just spoke about, it's all there, all the reports are there. There's summaries, you can click and read the whole thing, which is really boring, and it's another page. And there's also a page that's beyond Indian Point, which talks about all the green ways, we could live without Indian Point. Like the solar study in New York City, and all the different reports are there. I also have a Facebook page called Shutdown Indian Point Now, and we have about 800 followers there, and that really helps us to get the word out. And when I looked at the insights today, we've had almost 1 million people read all the articles that have been posted. So I search and for credible articles and put them up there. And during my searches, I noticed that with Indian Point and all the nuclear power plants, there's so much greenwashing that nuclear power is green. It's a total lie. And these nuclear power companies and Entergy, which owns Indian Point, they pay the biggest PR firms on the planet to spin these lies. And when the general public goes online to research Indian Point or any other nuclear plants, they just see all this misinformation. So that's really shaped the general public's view of nuclear power. And I'm trying to reshape that view with online media, with Twitter, with Facebook, with blogs, with PR distribution, anything we can possibly do to get the word out, the truth out. Because these are lies that are being put out there by these, it's an evil corporation.
Yes, it is.
It really is. And Indian Point, there is so much credible information that says it's absolutely unsafe. There's been radiological releases, and that's all on the website. You can read the New York Times. There's a new Associated Press 1-year study report out, an investigation that shows just massive cover-ups within the NRC, which is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that's supposed to, oversee all this, and they don't. They're really in collusion with these companies and the government. So we really need to come together as a community and get the word out. And I know people hate Facebook because of the privacy issues, and I hate it too. I hate my personal page. But Shutdown Indian Point Now on Facebook is a cause page, and you don't actually have to be a Facebook member to go there and read all the articles and like it. So just go there. And if you are on Facebook, and you post one of my articles, and that goes to your friends, and then it might go to their friends, and further and further and further. And that's how we can become a power. We can fight these huge PR firms. And there's media online. I really think the mainstream media now, it's just propaganda what we're watching. Now that I've dug into all the nuclear stuff, I just see everything is really spin. So there's other media sources online where they're doing truthful reporting. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And there's other nuclear websites that are trying to do that as well, just where you can go and get the truth and it's credible. So we just need to come together and not be afraid of Facebook. And I can show you how to set up a Facebook account where it's under a different name, because I know a lot of people are concerned about that. So you can go under there anonymously. So today I was going to teach about how to set up a blog, how to do Twitter, how to do Facebook, and if you don't want to do any of that, just write an article and send it to me so I can post it out there.
So when you get your wrap for lunch, come and sit down at the table with Rosie and have an in-depth conversation with her. Vitola?
I just wanted to make a comment, Rosie, that it was actually the day of the 350.org event in September of this year. I was at after I came here, I was in a coffee shop in Pleasantville talking to the waitresses and the people who were there. And apparently in their college courses, they were taught that nuclear energy is green. And so the college students here have an opportunity to go to the professors who are teaching about energy and find out what they're teaching and make sure that they're not teaching that nuclear energy is green. That's something, I mean, that's going on in the education system. So I just want to say that. The other thing I wanted to say about Rosie's website is it also lists all the upcoming events of ways that you can be active and continue your participation in closing Indian Point. So she keeps it very updated. It's wonderful, and go there.
Thank you.
Chris, oh, Brittany?
Joe.
Well, I actually have some insight as to that because I'm in an intro to environmental science class right now, and they do teach nuclear energy as sort of a system of type of renewable energy, but they do stress that that the waste never goes away, that there are environmental hazards, that they're dangerous.
Do they include the entire fuel cycle
Chain.
in
The
terms of
mining,
carbon
the
footprint?
milling,
Thank you.
the
Yeah.
processing, there's all kinds
They
of.
do,
Well,
yeah.
also the question about renewable.
But we
is
could-
that you're using uranium, which is limited, it's
Yeah,
finite.
exactly.
So
And
it's
that's-
really, you have to.
That's also
That's
mentioned.
documented.
So I mean, it just is like locked in
Well,
with.
it's only not,
with
the
other
only thing
circumstances.
about it is that it's non-carbon.
Mhm.
But it uses a lot of carbon in the whole process of getting the uranium out of the ground, refining it, milling it,
Yeah.
decommissioning it. So there's a terrific study, it's probably on Rosie's website, if not, it should be, where they did, these scientists looked at all the fossil fuel costs associated with nuclear.
Mhm.
And we should, if we're talking about it in class or wherever, we should know about this. It's
Chris
like-
actually has, Chris
Fluid.
Chris will actually speak to this point during one of his
Okay.
workshops. I know you've done that a lot, Chris, and that you're very prepared to talk about that whole thing.
I was just curious, are you going to be talking about other forms of getting out information? Because, I mean, the real world is very different than SUNY-Purchase, but at SUNY-Purchase we found that there's a couple ways that you can get out, like talking to people and get out events. Posters and Facebook events are definitely like top 10 like things to do to get a lot of people to show up. But I don't know, you could take a quick poll on like how everybody here found out about it, but we don't need to do that. But like writing a letter to the editor, emailing your professors, I mean, if anybody's a student, just like talking to your neighbors. That's how I found out that there's like within 5 miles of my home, there's gonna be a hydrofracking pad. And I was like, what's this? I don't know I was wondering if you were going to stress other
Absolutely.
sources.
One thing I do is every single person I come into contact with, I talk about Indian Point. And usually they look at me like I have 3 heads. You know, like I grew up in New York City, and most people that live in New York City don't know that Indian Point is a nuclear plant 25 miles from the city. They say, Indian Point, what's that? So yeah, it's so effective just to talk to everybody you know and that one-to-one thing, and they really absorb it, and they're like, whoa, oh my God, it's right there. So
Not only is it,
I've had numerous people, it seems to happen on certain days, so maybe it's something about the moon, I don't know. But I have a nowhere to run. So I think if you wear a button and it's big enough and it's the right circumstance, whether it's on the subway and people are just kind of bored, or friends or whatever, I think that that's another way. It's a very visible way to say that you're concerned about it.
And
You're not forcing it on anyone. They see the button, they can say, what's Indian Point, or why are you wearing that, or something.
I saw a really cute idea. I like just different marketing ideas, and I don't know if everyone's familiar with the QR code. I'm sure you young people are.
Yeah.
But it's a little
Yep.
code. It's on the posters. It's that little black and white code, and you just scan it with your smartphone, and it goes right to the website. So
it's actually on your program.
yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a cute marketing idea, people having the QR code on their t-shirt. So, you know, you have it on your back or something.
So you just scan your
like
body.
on the subway or something, and it just goes right to the website.
Wait, how does it scan with the code?
But would it stay intact if you wash your t-shirt?
It's like a barcode.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a barcode.
Little elves.
It's really, that's it.
You have to have the right app. Last person, yeah.
Chris, one question. Has there been any attempt to try to inundate the NRC with like everyone's feeling about closing Indian Point? Because we don't want to preach to the choir. A lot of people would, once they become cognizant of what's going on, would agree we should close it, but I think it's definitely, they're the ones that are gonna be deciding whether to recommission it, the
The
two
NRC
reactors or not.
I don't care, it's a revolving door between the industry and the regulator, and I'm gonna get into some Price Anderson, but it's the only agency that was designed to be so self-supporting, so they have their own, they make their own rules, they have their own judiciary, and they have their own enforcement, and they have no interest whatsoever in closing a plant, because the way they get their funding is by having plants open. So if they close a plant, they get less money.
So who could you go to then to voice your?
Our local politicians.
Congress.
Congress and our local politicians. That's how we've been most effective.
But don't all the local politicians in New York, at least I know Governor Cuomo does, and Stephen Lowy and Tom Avalante, don't they all, aren't they all in favor of closing it?
No,
No?
no, the congressperson who's in the district, the congressperson from that district, the 19th, is Nan Hayworth. She's a Tea Party person. She thinks it's just fine. She's very ignorant to the issues and doesn't really care about it because she's simply big business oriented and doesn't think anything should get in the way of high profitability of corporations regardless of.
Couldn't President Obama put some?
Great question.
President Obama on an industry piece, he loves nuclear power.
Oh, he does.
Alice, can you pass that around?
You have to understand where it comes from, so you understand that, you know.
I got 3 of these, I don't know where the
Obama gets
third
a lot
one
of
was.
his funding from the new excellent.
Make sure she gets them back, but pass them around.
Obama gets much of his funding and much of his campaign support from Exelon, the nuclear industry in his hometown. The issue of the problems with nuclear brought to his attention when he was a senator, and there's a cancer cluster for children in that area called Braidwood, and there were kids with brain cancer, and he was very concerned about it. So as a young senator, he brought it to Congress that their nuclear plants should be required to let the public know when there are releases into the water and the air. He got money, and it was watered down to, it's voluntary, it's a voluntary standard. And since that time, he's been in their pocket, or they've been in his pocket, you know, basically.
Well, he's made it very clear in his
said in
campaign.
his State of the Union
He wanted more
clean coal.
sustainable
coal.
energy, but he also wanted,
Oh.
one of the things he wanted was nuclear power. That
And clean coal.
he was quite emphatic, so he's
Right, clean coal, that's a great one.
right, and
But
clean coal, right.
he has nuclear executives in his administration.
Axelrod.
Rahm Emanuel, Axelrod, they're nuclear.
And
CEO.
his energy
They all come.
secretary,
There's a
Stephen
entire
Chu, is a
from the
big
nuclear
fan.
power.
Excuse me, I have to ring my bell now.
Oh,